minutes. James Wilde.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. For 6 months before I was elected as the member for North West Norfolk, I was part of the Brexit unit within Number 10, and prior to that I advised the former Right Honourable Member for Aylesbury as he led part of the EU negotiations and with Member States. So I've been blessed with some experience of negotiations, although not as much as my honourable friend here. And I think in considering the EU mandate in today's debate, it's worth reflecting on the process thus far. Back in July, the consensus was that the backstop could not be changed, that the EU mandate was the mandate and the UK had to accept it. Indeed, in meetings I was in with Michel Barnier, he said, no way can the backstop be changed. But with clarity on the changes that we needed, energetic negotiations, and by marshalling political support from them, the backstop was indeed replaced, and a new political declaration agreed that explicitly set a free trade agreement as the desired outcome. Importantly, both sides agreed to get that agreement done by the end of 2020. And we must now retain the clarity that got us to this position. So I welcome the European Scrutiny Committee's call for transparency on the negotiations. In the past, the EU set out their position, while ours could be rather obscure. But anyone can now go on gov.uk, read the detailed text we've published and a typically straightforward and reasoned letter from my former colleague, David Frost. They set out our proposals on a level playing field to prevent distortions of trade and unfair competitive advantages, proposals that meet the commitments that we made in the political declaration. We also agreed to non-regression on labour, environment and other areas. But as a sovereign nation, we cannot accept the EU mandate on state aid requiring dynamic alignment on rules over which we have no say. That would be unprecedented in a free trade agreement. And on fisheries, my constituents on the coast want to see us take back control of our waters, but the EU proposals are based on maintaining the same access as under the Common Fisheries Policy. On security, the safety of all our citizens must be the first priority, with an approach that reflects the UK's leading position as a source of data and intelligence. So now is the time for flexibility in the EU mandate, not further delay, as some have called for, although the opposition spokesman was unwilling to answer whether those calling for delay include the Labour Party. Of course, COVID-19 has required a huge amount of attention from the Government and Member States, as well as the Commission. But with goodwill, it is eminently feasible to finalise an FTA. Extending the transition will simply prolong negotiations and extend uncertainty. If we learn anything from the withdrawal agreement, it is that extensions remove the pressure to bring negotiations to a conclusion. Can I encourage my honourable friend to pursue the communications to business who know that changes are coming to customs arrangements so they can be properly prepared? In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Commission and the Member States, as we know, closely follow the debates in this chamber. Well, this House legislated to end the transition period this year. These benches are united in delivering on the manifesto that people in North West Norfolk and across this country voted for at the general election. The terms of an agreement that reflect the reality that the UK has left the EU are clear, reasonable and public. So now is the time to work intensively to secure that FTA for the benefit of UK and EU citizens.